ruthless.
And welcome back to another episode of We Synced It. I'm your host, the never-ending uppercut, Joshua Wheeler. Now today it's going to be a solo style one. It'll just be me, and we're talking about Roofman, the 2025 movie with Channing Tatum. And I love me some Channing Tatum, so I watch anything and everything, good, bad, and the ugly. Now, Corey, Mr. Swamp Ass Magnet, he will not be with us today. And the Gorilla Glue King, Chris, he won't be with us either. Now, we're still doing Starship Troopers. That's coming up next, but that's all three of us at once situation. Now, they're not with me, so I'm doing my own today. I just watched Roofman. It is fresh in my head, and it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. And let's get to it. So it stars Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, and a little bit of Peter Dinklage. Not because he's little, but it's a little role. And he did pretty good. As an actor, when you make somebody just not like you, you're doing a pretty good job. Just like Malfoy in Harry Potter. That dude sucks, but he's the nicest guy in real life, right? I mean, not that I've met him in real life, but when you see him and stuff, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, so right off the bat, this movie is about a guy that comes home from war. He used to be in the army. And it's kind of like a lot of stuff where our vets come home and they don't know what to do with themselves. He's got no direction. And this guy's super intelligent, and he's got no direction. I kind of felt like that after school. I was smart enough to do anything, not smart enough to put it to use. No direction. So it took me a long time to finally figure out what I was doing or where I was going. But had a lot of fun figuring it out. So Channing Tatum comes back. He's got 3 kids, a wife. Wife doesn't like him. They leave him after he gets in trouble. Now he starts a life of crime. He got the name Roofman because he would break into roofs, like through the ceiling, because that's the weak point apparently. And I guess a smart person would know all that. He's sitting at McDonald's and he sees all the patterns of everything ever going on. And he starts figuring out this is when the money's there. This is when people come in. All this other stuff. So he tears through the roof. He comes in. He does a lot of falling in this movie. Every time he's trying to get into a building or something, he just stumbles down and collapses. He does it on the McDonald's. He falls through when he's trying to get into a pawn shop, and then he's mad because he didn't even pick the right hole spot. He ended up in the Chinese food restaurant next door, and that was pretty funny. And then he has to bash through the wall to try to get through there. For a second, I thought in that scene he was actually going to get caught, but he was able to escape. I really thought that was where he was going to go to jail. And this whole movie, you just know it's coming. He's going, because it's based on a true story, and you know that guy's in jail. But you don't know when and where he's going to get caught, because I didn't know the original story that it was based on all the way. So he's a goofball with no direction. He goes to jail at the very beginning for robbing 45 restaurants, and he escapes just by being a nice guy. Everybody forgets about him, so he gets out there. He does all kinds of cool guy stuff. People forget about him. They ease up, and then he makes his move, and he's out there like a thief in the night, gone. And then he ends up hiding from everybody in a Toys R Us, and that's ridiculous, but it's pretty cool. I did like the feel of this movie. It felt very early 80s. In the early 90s when I was young, the aesthetic. And then I figured out it was filmed in 35 millimeter. So that kind of added to that old school feel, which I was like, that's really cool. Everything felt like old school. Now, the movie's actually set in 2004. The whole time I was watching this movie, I was trying to figure out, when is this supposed to take place? And it never told me, so I kind of looked it up. 2004. But, not a bad time. Very weird. There were no cell phones around, not a lot of technology, stuff like that. So it felt very, very old school, kind of like when I was younger, early 90s. But I enjoyed it. That part was pretty cool. But seeing him run through Toys R Us in the middle of the night, it's like every kid's dream, right? Every man who loves action figures' dream, just to wander around, nobody around, free to do whatever the hell you want. That's pretty cool. But can you imagine being stuck for 60 days in a toy store? Now, eventually he makes his way out of the toy store by doing some intelligence. He turns off all the cameras and that leads into my opinions on the manager in this story. They make him look like an idiot. So he gets the cameras turned off, so he's free to do whatever, and then he disassembles like one of the security doors, so he's able to come and go as he pleases. Now he's only doing that in the middle of the night, so nobody catches him. But still, the Peter Dinklage role, he plays the manager, and this guy is an asshole. And like I said, Peter Dinklage makes this guy an asshole really good. He's a Lannister, he's good at that already. But he doesn't do, like, as a manager, he doesn't do his job. He doesn't check cameras. He accuses his employees of eating the candy off the shelves, just like poking at him. He's crap. And you would think if he's got these suspicions that he's willing to ask his employees, maybe he would do some kind of, I don't know, intelligence gathering of his own. Maybe check your cameras, see if you can see while your M&Ms are disappearing. But, he doesn't. He somehow knows that there's $10,000 worth of video games gone because Channing Tatum's been pawning it to start dating Kirsten Dunst, who also works at the store, which is super weird. That's like sleeping with the enemy type stuff. But he knows there's a big problem. Still not checking the cameras, is he? Because he has no idea that the cameras are off. And the only time they find that out is when the cops show up after Peter Dinklage shows up early one day and sees Channing Tatum's naked ass just spread out. He's got a camera. He's got a fan up over his face so he doesn't see who it is. And he's quick on his feet too. He chases Dinklage. He sets the alarm off like he's running out the door, and then he turns around. And for a second, I'm like, what is he doing? And then I realize he's grabbing all the evidence that he's there and chunking it into a hole, like where he's been hiding. So he's in there freaking out under a blanket in his little hidey hole as he's watching all the cops do their investigation. Now these cops, one thing about movies, and if I enjoyed the movie, I'll go straight to IMDb and I'll look at all the notes and little tips and extra stuff about it, kind of just learn more because that's who I am. And I learned that a lot of the police officers in this movie were actually involved in the original case, which I thought was pretty cool. So, but side note. But the cops show up, and these cops are not good at their job. If he's got this door rigged open, they never even check to see if the doors, and check all the doors, check everything. And of course they check the security tapes, but that's when they find out it's not working. That's when you find out this dude's a terrible boss and all that money's gone. He didn't do any kind of investigation, none of that. It's just you're like, all right, I got no sympathy for you, dude. You're not doing your job. This guy probably could have done this whole thing, could have been avoided if he'd have done his job. He'd have seen my stuff's not working, let's fix it. And if it kept happening, okay, something's going on. But, we do what we do. Now, Kirsten Dunst letting Channing Tatum, first off, the sex must have been awesome because she invites him over immediately to meet the kids, and the very first date, he's like in the daughter's room alone, which I was like, that's uncomfortable. Yeah, and Channing's not going to do anything. That's not the point. Like, I wouldn't want to really be with somebody that would just let their kids be alone like that with somebody you just met. I know he impressed you, and he looked good naked, and then y'all had your fun, but come on. That was... Now Kirsten Dunst, she's starting to age, and I like it, actually. I wasn't a fan of her when she was younger. She's one of those that as she's getting older, I kind of like the way she's looking better. Or maybe it's just because I'm older, and I find women at that age more attractive. I don't know, but that is what it is also. Now, halfway through this movie, he's hiding. He's going out. He starts to kind of get to know what's going on around, and he gets a little adventurous for my taste. And honestly, after being in a hole for 30 days, however long it had been, and he starts going out, I get it. But that was stressing me out because it's about to go down, and you just don't know. I will say this movie was a little long, and I was like, okay, you probably could have cut off, 20 minutes of him being in the store dicking around, and it probably would have done just as good. Now, I did enjoy the movie, and he was a terrible manager. Kirsten Dunst was pretty cool. Now, I learned that the preacher that he went and met at the church actually in real life went and talked to him, like the real man that it was based on. He actually went up to him and spent time with him, talked to him. And the church wasn't mad at him. A lot of this is told at the very end of the movie when they're talking about the real life stuff, and I thought that was really cool. Nowadays, you don't really hear a lot of good stuff like that. It's all anger, but church back in the day, I guess, wasn't so bad. But it felt old school to me, and I enjoyed it. Wasn't bad at all. For the life of me, these cops were terrible. And then I'll say this: if he hadn't been such a nice guy, he'd have walked away and took care of himself. But he got caught because he was a nice guy multiple times, every time, But hey, it happens. All right, so I'm gonna say 6.5 is what I would rate this movie. Wasn't a terrible movie at all. I enjoyed it. I will probably watch it every now and then, but it's not. It's no yearly movie. It's not in rotation like that. It's not Home Alone for me. You know what I'm saying? Home Alone is every Christmas. I'm probably about to watch Home Alone. So who knows? Maybe I'll do an episode on that one. But that's what my thoughts were on the Roofman. It's pretty good. It was maybe too long. A lot of dumb assness around this guy allowed him to get away with murder, pretty much. Not murder, but whatever he wanted. And also, if you eat candy for 60 days straight, you're going to have a lot of teeth problems. That sucks too. All right. That's Josh signing off. Until next time.